Tokyo Mew Mew is a magical girl series following 5 girls fighting to save the Earth from aliens. The manga was written by Reiko Yoshida and illustrated by Miya Ikumi. It ran in Nakayoshi from 2000 to 2003. However, in 2002, the anime adaptation began, which is how I found out about it. This anime faithfully adapted the major plot beats, adding a lot of depth to each character. I stumbled upon it as a child and have decided to give it a new shot. As part of my Patreon book club, let's revisit this classic for the channel. Before we continue, Tokyo Mew Mew is a lot of things. When it's not a convoluted romance, it's all about environmentalism. Both adaptations struggle to balance these themes, but I do prefer the anime. For the sake of time, I won't be covering the remake because I want to focus on the original. That's enough preamble, so let's get right into the series. Our first character is Momomiya Ichigo, and she's an energetic, emotional teenage girl. Ichigo is rather immature and prone to emotional tantrums. Her mood slips pretty fast, which makes her an entertaining lead. I find that her immaturity drives a lot of the best scenes. Despite this description, Ichigo's character is incomplete without Aoyama, Ichigo's primary love interest. I respect the series for putting their romance front and center. They go on a date in the very first chapter, and their relationship matters most in the finale, for better and for worse. Aoyama is a great love interest. He's calm and kind, a grounding force to Ichigo's excitable nature. They make for a really good pairing. My issue with the two is that Aoyama drives most of Ichigo's behavior. While it's realistic that she thinks about him often, that's just the teenage experience, I find it troubling that she's written to consider him before anything else. When she's feeling insecure, it's Aoyama's encouragement that she needs. When she's losing a fight and about to die, it's not her teammates that she fears for, or even her own life, but rather the potential future she's losing with Aoyama. It robs her of agency because we're never sure what she's doing for herself, for the Earth, or for Aoyama. This lack of agency is reflected by how the men of this manga treat her: forced kisses, grabbing, and borderline harassment. It's one of the worst parts of the manga. We'll get into it later, but for now, let's get back to Ichigo. On the date with Aoyama, she's infused with the DNA of an endangered animal because their DNA has a stronger instinct to protect. The lore is something. Her animal is the area moat cat. This allows her to transform into the pink cat girl, Mew Mew Ichigo. Her transformation track is dramatic and builds throughout the sequence. I love the shift from the heavy orchestral sound to the playful melody in the middle. The animation is really clean, and my favorite part is when the ribbon transitions into her choker. Such a creatively elegant choice. It's the same elegant scene when she aligns her strawberry bell with her glove's ribbon. It's a really fun attack. The upgrade includes a beautiful pair of wings, and a beautiful chime is added to the soundtrack. In terms of sound design, I love all the attacks she gets. The third upgrade is less dynamic, but it's quite pretty too. It's just not my favorite. Minto Aizawa is up next, and was initially my personal favorite. Minto is one of my favorite archetypes, the mean rich girl. I find her so entertaining, but also for the sake of my tongue, I'm just gonna call her Mint from now. Mint is a wealthy ballerina who encounters Ichigo at the museum in the manga and by the road in the anime. The gist is the same in both cases. Ichigo's trying to return a handkerchief. Throughout their encounter, Mint makes pretty mean and classist remarks, though the manga's insults feel a bit more personal. She has a deeper sting here, often leaning in and whispering her judgment into Ichigo's ear. This personal nature lends it more sting, but I do prefer the anime for softening her and amping up her relationship with Zakuro. Mint's best scenes are when she's painfully unaware of her class, from sipping afternoon tea during her Cafe Mew Mew shifts to bringing a rare antique to a yard sale. I'm obsessed with how out of touch she is. My favorite episode is the one where she meets her childhood rival, Kana Sayonji. At this point, Mint is warmed up to the girls, so Kana acts as her foil, a fellow snob with antisocial behavior. But unlike Mint, Kana has yet to outgrow her bad habits. She still places her value in her wealth, and it's not until Mint corrects her that she's able to reach out. True connection requires vulnerability. She has to open her heart, just like Mint did. It's a really good episode that highlights Mint's own personal arc. Mint is infused with the blue loricates DNA, and her transformation is one of the best in the magical girl genre. The ballet influence adds a lot of flair to her transformation. The track begins with a lone piano as her bird wings appear. They then wrap around her to form a tutu, and this alone makes it one of the best of the series. Tokyo Mew Mew's transformations all used creative cuts like this, and it makes me wonder what else the staff has worked on. There's a lot of times when things align in just the perfect way that looks so satisfying to me, very creative. The rest of it features her ballet dancing, ending in the 4th position. Her attack is just as elegant with a beautiful bow and arrow. Mint is everything. The third member of the team is Midorikawa Retasu, and just like Mint, we're calling her Lettuce, I'm sorry. She's a shy, timid girl with low self-esteem. Her proper introduction is the cafe, getting bullied by her so-called friends. When Ichigo intervenes, Lettuce explains that her bullies are probably sad people using her as an outlet. This raises the question, what does Lettuce use as an outlet? The girls at Lettuce's table were discussing a ghost story, that at Okumura High, the girls' school, a young ghost has been seen wandering the pool at night, that she's able to control water, and so, suspecting alien activity, the girls go to investigate, and to no one's surprise, it's Lettuce herself. See, Lettuce was already pretty insecure, so in reaction to her Mew Mew powers, she panicked. She was already lonely, but now she's different too. Ichigo notices her tears and correctly detects her fear. She reminds Lettuce of how kind she is, and by reaching out to her, she's able to acquire her second teammate. Personally, I don't like this introduction. It always felt a little clumsy in execution. Between the bullies who don't appear much, Lettuce's absurd power levels, and the whole false chimera plot, it feels very complex. And this applies to the manga's general plot, which sometimes feels like the longest, most confusing route to a simple conclusion. And considering the manga's finale, I'd say that's accurate. This is like a microcosm of all the manga's problems. Lettuce's best trait is her kindness. She's selfless to a fault. When a boy she likes moves on, she can't help but let it go. She moves on in peace. In episode 34, Lettuce designs a bunch of plushies that get noticed by a famous designer. The two bond and decide to collaborate on a special doll. When it's complete, the designer takes full credit, completely betraying Lettuce's trust. But in a staggering show of kindness, Lettuce doesn't care about the doll. All she wants to know is why. And we find out that this designer was in a rut. And in Lettuce, she saw her escape. The betrayal is still raw, but Lettuce prioritizes the feelings they both put into their work. What's important is that the doll spreads happiness. As Ryo comments, Lettuce already suspected this would happen, and yet she went along with it. She didn't care about the credit, she just wanted to make people happy. Personally, I feel that this episode went a little far, but overall she is the kind beating heart of the team. Lettuce has the DNA of a finless porpoise, and her transformation is pretty revealing. I like the DNA ripple because it feels really thematic with the water, but it is a lot of nudity, and the only highlight I'm going to mention is the clapping at the end since it ties in her Spanish influence. This is also reflected in her castanets, or as she calls them, letastanets. I really like her attack. That's all I have to say on Lettuce, so let's move on to Booling is a character I was always worried about. I thought she'd be annoying based on her archetype, but she's actually one of the funniest characters on the show. Booling is the group's hyperactive little sister, and a skilled martial artist. Beyond this, she performs circus acts for tips while taking care of her 5 siblings. Buling's life, despite her demeanor, is actually pretty sad. She's only 12, but she's left in charge of her large family. Her mother passed away a few years ago, and her father left to do martial arts with 6 children. I thought this wasn't canon when I saw it in the anime, but no, he's also doing martial arts in the manga, so that's just her situation. Her writing is wrapped up in really wacky situations, such as an adult man challenging her for her hand in marriage, and in the manga, getting trapped underground with the weight of a dome stadium crashing above. More than anyone, her challenges feel especially harrowing, a feat that's only possible due to her upbeat nature. With anyone else, I think these plot threads would just feel depressing. Pudding's transformation is my least favorite. She's fused with a golden lion tamarin, which explains the acrobatics, as well as the Donkey Kong-esque soundtrack. I do like the broken earth at the end though. Her attack sends ripples through the ground to encase the target in pudding. It's so fun, goofy. I also think that it's cute that she's the only Mew Mew who can't purify chimeras. Even though a human did in that one episode, which was pretty weird, but moving on. Zakuro is the final team member. She's a mature, brooding teenager and a lone wolf. In both the anime and manga, it's Mint who figures out her identity. See, she's actually a huge fan of Zakuro. The anime turns it up to 100 in one of my favorite character dynamics. A major problem in both mediums is that the team's dynamic is pretty weak. They don't talk much and there's not a lot of distinction between their relationships. This is something the anime is better at, with Ichigo, Lettuce, and Buling as a trio, with Mint and Zakuro in their fraud dynamic, and smaller bits between each character pairing. The biggest victim of this writing choice is Zakuro. As a lonesome character, she's got the least to work with, but the anime manages to pull through. Unlike the rest, she's not eager to team up and is already active by the time they find her. She is probably the strongest out of them, purifying multiple chimeras at once and often fighting alone. Zakuro is strong and independent, but also observant. Throughout the series, she proves herself to be the smartest of the Mew Mews. She silently observes the girls' conflicts and moves in subtle ways. In the episode about Lettuce's doll making, it's Zakuro who first suspects that she's being tricked. When the girls are strategizing, it's Zakuro who makes the most insightful remarks. And when Mint refuses to fight, she gives her a reason to. The two's dynamic is quite unique, so let's cover that. In episode 21, Mint gives up on fighting, and so, to convince her, Zakuro pays her friend a visit. Mint argues that there's no point in 5 girls trying to save the world, and that they're all doomed to die. Testing her resolve, Zakuro reasons that they might as well all die now, and so she attacks. The two have their first fight, and to convince her, Zakuro attacks Mickey, Mint's dog. With her pet's life on the line, Mint is reminded of her reason to fight, the life of this planet, whether it's her dog, herself, or her new friends. Their second major conflict comes in episode 42. Zakuro receives an offer to go film in America. The thought of her leaving the team leaves Mint devastated. And when Zakuro stands still during their next fight, Mint is heartbroken. She feels betrayed by her idol, and yet, to Zakuro, this was just another test. When Zakuro attacked Mint's dog, the fight was entirely staged, and even now, Zakuro is only testing them, seeing if they can fight without her, seeing if Mint can fight without her. This episode is mostly about Mint, but just like before, it's Zakuro who encourages her. She really is her shining idol. Zakuro has one of the coolest transformations in the group. The blaring guitar is the perfect instrument for this edge. While it's not that dynamic a sequence, I do like the final pose. She mostly just poses around before a big leap into her final stance. The attack is quite similar with great music but very simple animation. I do like the loop though, that's very cool. So now that we've covered the main characters, let's move on to the villains. What exactly are they fighting for? Well, like the intro monologue says, for the sake of the Earth. Environmentalism is a major theme in the series. The girls' powers are drawn from endangered animals, the first chapter is at an exhibit, and the girls don't just fight monsters, they fight chimera animals, bizarre fusions of alien and animal DNA. When the aliens attack, it's the Earth itself that's at risk. In episode 8, we follow the construction of a spa resort on otter territory. This episode features a teenage boy jumping in front of a bulldozer. Despite the extreme risk behind his actions, the episode ends with his promise that he will never let them finish construction. This is the kind of show that we're dealing with. The aliens themselves are an interesting way to address this. Initially, I believed they were from another planet, but in truth, they are the original inhabitants of the Earth. The aliens predate mankind and fled Earth due to a mass catastrophe about 300 million years ago. After fleeing the Earth, they found themselves on a harsh and barren planet. So when they returned, imagine their pain when they found the beautiful Earth being destroyed by humans. This is a pretty interesting narrative choice. On one hand, it's a good motivation for their actions, but it's also where the show's themes get murky. The aliens predating mankind lends an indigenous reading to their struggle. I do think that punishing humans is a little extreme though. Accelerating the environment's destruction seems to go against their final goal of reclaiming the Earth as their home. And we already dug into this in my Otona Precure review, so if you want to see that explored, be sure to check out that video. It has similar themes. But I'm gonna stop here for Tokyo Mew Mew because it just doesn't feel fair. The show is very uninterested in this. It doesn't dive too deep into environmentalism, so we're just gonna cover the aliens themselves. The bigger issue for now is Quiche. He is the series' first and creepiest antagonist. Quiche is a bratty alien boy who repeatedly violates Ichigo, planting kisses on her, restraining her, and being pretty disgusting. I hated all his time on the show. It trivializes what should be pretty traumatizing for someone of any age, but especially a 13-year-old girl. The other villains are Pie and Tart, who are less present but basically the mature one and the childish one. They're pretty entertaining, but the fight scenes are where they really shine. I think the trio schemes are one of the series' strongest suits. The monsters of the week start out as animals, but pretty soon they start fusing human souls with aliens, giving us the wackiest villain designs I've seen, and I'm just gonna leave a few on screen so we can share this joy. The chimeras also demonstrate a real threat to the girls' lives. Due to the pretty serious action, they always brought out their best for the fight scenes. Overall, Tokyo Mew Mew is a thrilling watch. I think it's one of the best adaptations of a magical girl manga. The anime amps up the comedy and gives the girls greater depth. It also cleans up a few of the manga's issues while of course introducing its own. I know we didn't delve too deep into this work, but I hope it stands as my introductory thoughts on the series. So what did you think of Tokyo Mew Mew, and should I watch the reboot? With that said, I would like to take time to thank this month's patrons. Gabby, Emaru the Fiore Lover, Rugia, La Perla del Gacha, Gerard Kachaturian, Mohammed Aska Noor Hakim, Nya EXE, It's Blue, Reski Amalia, Suzaku, Celine Envoy, Ayusha Rai, Ella Corcoran, Kit Kate, Evelina Poinsett, Lumin An, Babu Braz, Marielle Ishimwe, and a special mention to Nomura. With that said, see you guys next time.